everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We're going to let our attendees join in. With lots of people hopping on right now, we'll give everybody just one more minute and then we'll get ready to start our conversation for today.
We are right on time too, early even.
We are early.
You know what it is, everybody does everything in 30-minute segments now. Okay, 1:30 meeting, 2 o'clock meeting, 2:30.
Time to roll, time to roll. All right, well, it is right at 2 o'clock. So I just want to take a chance. I'm Becky Brooks, the president of the Alliance for Women in Media and our foundation. We are honored to be celebrating our 70th anniversary this year. And this interview is part of our Gracie interview series and our 70th anniversary celebration. So we appreciate everyone taking time to hop on. I have the honor of introducing today a really fabulous conversation. And so I'll toss it first to Angela Yee, who is one of the co-hosts of The Breakfast Club and a podcast, Lip Service. She has a coffee company, a philanthropist, and everything in between. She's outstanding. She's a Gracie winner, and we are very, very fortunate to have her here to have a conversation with Julie. So Angela, I'll toss it to you.
Well, thank you, Becky, and happy 70 years for the Alliance for Women in Media. So this is really exciting for me because I did win 2 Gracies, and when I tell you that was like one of the most, I would say that along with being in the Radio Hall of Fame, the highest honors that you could possibly get. So I do want to thank you guys for that. And Julie Talbott and I have had the honor of being able to be together at the Gracies on occasion and had just an amazing time. So that's why I'm really excited to have a conversation with Julie. And if you don't know who Julie is, well, of course you do. She is the president of Premier Networks. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Heading up Premier Networks, we're the largest network in the industry, and I am thrilled to be part of a 70th anniversary and working with so many incredible women like Angela that it's really amazing. And that's one of the reasons I really love my job.
Well, you've been doing this in radio and you've been working in radio, and you've made such a transformation from when you first started 30 years ago until today. So let people know where you started to get to where you are now.
Well, I graduated from the University of Kentucky, and I was always encouraged by my family. My grandmother's husband died at an early age, and she ran a small town bank. She ran a farm, and I think about 70 years ago. Oh my gosh, what some of these women were going through, and how to put a man in front but still run a business behind, which is what she would have to go through. But that encouragement for me was always about, don't think about what the obstacles are. Think about how you're going to get it done. Don't ever, don't put these roadblocks up. Go. Think about what your goal is and go for it. And I think about when I first came to New York so long ago, and I really came up for a bank training program, thinking that would be a natural progression. But I had an interview with an ad agency. And in those days, we wore little blue suits, jacket, blue skirt, little bow tie, and it was all very put together. And all the interviews I had were pretty stiff like that. And I got to the ad agency, and cigar in mouth, legs up on the table, best view of Manhattan I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, this is where I need to be. So, and it was, there weren't a lot of women, but there were some. And most importantly, you just have to find out what you can do to help,
right,
to get in the door. And then after that, all was good.
You know, I think about how I came up in this business as a radio personality. And when I first started, I worked as an assistant and then I worked in marketing. And marketing really helped me a lot with my career in radio. And I think about you coming from advertising and how that helps with your position and what you do now. Can you talk about just incorporating all your past experiences to lead you up to this role as president of Premier Networks?
You know, it really was about creativity. I mean, what I found when I went into the ad business, I was lucky enough to work on an account, a Gillette account, a big account, and they were incredibly open to, you know, to me as a woman and to, you know, any contributions I wanted to make. But they came out, I mean, if you can even believe this, they had first disposable razor scheduled for young adults. And the only thing they'd ever done was big TV, you know, all TV, big TV events, sporting events. And I went, you know what, that's really great. But if you're going to need to hit somebody like I, who am 21 years old, you got to do radio. We got to be on the radio. And I think that, you know, thinking of creative solutions has been something that is consistent throughout my whole career. It can't be status quo, and you have to work hard to change the status quo. And while they were skeptical at first, then everything fell into place. So if you believe it, you got to sell it through, and you have to, you know, come up with the good ideas.
You know, let's talk about professional growth, because one thing I'm a big fan of is every year I try to do better than I did the previous year. Really every day, I try to make sure that I make that count towards something. And so for a lot of us, sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm kind of stuck in this place. How do I get to the next level? What are some of your secrets to growing in your profession?
Well, I think, you know, as opposed to doing the same thing every day, you got to mix it up. You really have to sit back and say, these are the 20 things that I have to get done today, but I also need 30 minutes to think about how my responsibilities fit into a bigger picture. And what in that bigger picture, you know, what's missing? And you know, sometimes I have some really horrible ideas. That's okay.
Right.
But you really have to, you know, think about what those ideas are and talk about them and try to get people to listen and potentially come up with something that's great for everybody.
What have been some of your biggest challenges? Because we can talk about, and you have so many accolades. We're going to get into that in a second too, because I want to talk about, like I was saying, how the Gracies is one of the most important things that I've gotten. So we'll discuss that. But what are some of the obstacles that you had to overcome and some of the biggest challenges that you've had?
Well, getting in the door is number one. And then secondly, listen, don't discount it. Working harder than everybody else, working smarter as well. I mean, not just harder, but working harder and smarter than everyone else and making your boss's job easier, and always volunteering for something that's going to make your boss or your boss's boss or your co-worker's life easier. Those are the things that you have to do. And so the biggest obstacle is really finding the time because you're going to have to work harder than everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also feel like networking is so important, right? Because what I found for myself early on was going out and going to different events and supporting other people. That is work. And sometimes you don't feel like doing it. You're like, I'd rather just stay in the house. But it is so important for you to go out there and even to just sometimes reach out to people. What has your experience been like with networking? Because there's this stigma, I think, that women don't support each other. We're so competitive with each other. But I haven't really found that to be true for 90% of the time. So what's your experience?
I have not found that at all. Shaking hands and making plans. That's what I say. That's the networking. That's my networking philosophy, because the more people you meet, the more ideas you're going to have, the more ideas you have to share.